We're not on yet.
Right. Now we're on.
Okay, now go back to the...
This is Chloe sliding into class over here.
Hi, Natalie.
Hi.
No, hang on, not yet. I need to check. Hello, everyone. We're just a little bit delayed. We'll get this going in just a second. We technically are streaming live, but we have not officially started the show yet.
Sounds about right.
Natalie's got the giggles. So. I just came from the Bay Area.
Okay, I hear someone's
Good move.
I hear someone's phone. I don't know if it's Tony's or yours or I'm loading it up too.
I just heard that. I heard a ding.
Yeah, I don't know what the ding was. God dang it.
As long as it's not followed by a lane,
Yeah.
it's usually okay. I did hear it again.
Well, that one was my phone, which I apologize for.
At least we know where the dingling is.
Yes.
Hey-oh!
Okay. All right. I am officially set up. Are you guys all good?
Yep. Yeah.
What do you think?
Cool.
It's not great, but the bigger square is the window that we are currently in, so you'll know when the camera is on you. I figured it might be kind of nice. So.
Not on your phone.
Let's get started.
All right, let's get this thing. Let's get this show started. So, hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome to this episode of Uncle Monster's Monster Vision Live. We're gonna start our credits in 1 second. This episode, we're gonna be talking a little bit about zombies, where they come from, where they originate from, and their effect on pop culture and stuff like that. We're also gonna go over the Tournament of Terror Round 1 eliminations. Some interesting outcomes there. We have an artist spotlight of something very interesting. And, of course, we've also got our prizes, fun, and more, and stuff like that. So, let's just get the show started because we're already behind. Let's run those credits.
Do you know what the most frightening thing in the world is?
Sam! They're coming! They mostly come at night. Mostly. I'm afraid!
Don't be afraid!
No, be afraid. Be very afraid.
They're here.
It's all true. The boogeyman is real, and you found him.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Now clear your mind. It knows what scares you. It has from the very beginning.
I like to dissect girls. Did you know I'm utterly insane? She just goes a little mad sometimes. We all go a little mad sometimes.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
There is nothing to worry about. I'm your #1 fan.
Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos or create us.
Listen, asshole!
No, you listen, you little bitch.
It's alive! It's alive! We have such sights to show you.
What's in the box?
The box. You opened it. We came.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
I see dead people.
You know, it's just occurred to me we really haven't had a completely successful test of this equipment. No sense worrying about it now.
Why worry? Each of us is wearing an unlicensed nuclear accelerator on his back.
That's why I was speeding.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this October 40th, Monster Vision Live. I know Halloween is over, and we're all a little bit bummed out about it, but we are going to keep this thing going year-round, so you can always get your Halloween fix. So, with me tonight in studio, we've actually got a completely full house, believe it or not. Well, sort of. We have Natalie Smith, from 1,000 Word Studios with us. Also, we have Mr. T.C. Morgan with us. And we even have Tony Garrison live via Skype who is joining us. So we've got all of us. And then, of course, we've got my beautiful, lovely, and very tolerant wife running mission control for us. So the whole five of us, this is the first time all five of us have kind of been on the air. Yeah. How are you doing over there, Tony?
I'm great.
Cool.
All the way so far away from you.
Yeah.
Nice not to have to smell him. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, we need to bring his audio up more because we can barely hear you. All right. Hi, Natalie.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm great.
You brought cupcakes?
Because it was TC's birthday.
Yes, it was.
You didn't get to see it. Yeah.
Unicorn.
Oh, very fitting. Very fitting. Unicorn cupcakes. Cool. So did you all have a good holiday, good Halloween, all that stuff?
Yeah. Like I said, my birthday's a week after, so 6 days after. That is the greatest week of my life. So I get to run around and have fun, and I did. I had a show up in Pleasanton. I found myself out in Vegas, St. George, Utah, a couple other places over the week. So that was a fun little. Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you.
Cool. And you, Natalie?
It was busy.
Yeah, that's always good. I had a quiet evening. We don't get trick-or-treaters in our street, unfortunately, so we just kicked back and did nothing.
That's because of that incident, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I will tell you what, I spent the better part of this morning writing names down for all of the people that voted in the Tournament of Terror thing. I actually went through 4 pads of Post-it notes, and after writing all the names on, filling up the bucket. And what we're actually going to do right now, just to get this thing kicked off, is we're going to go ahead and put the new names from the voters into the fart jar, and then we'll get them all mixed up, and we're going to do a drawing. And this drawing right now is going to be for a coffee mug. So it's going to be the Decaffeinated Designs Ouija board design coffee mug.
That's more farts than the jar can handle.
We're going to have to at least get them all in there for now.
We're working on this here. We got a couple that went off to the side of the jar. A couple of farts escaped. But thank you for helping me with the farts.
No one breathe. No one breathe.
Okay. All right.
So the last couple of episodes, we've actually had winners. We had David Head won a mask 2 episodes ago.
Congrats, Dave.
William Trumbull got a coffee mug out of the last show, and he actually put a message there that he got it today, I believe. So hopefully he is drinking out of that right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a fart jar drawing that TC is going to do. The way this basically works is we pull a name out, we read it off. If you watch this episode within 24 hours, you'll have till 8 p.m. tomorrow, which is Sunday. You got to reach out to me via Facebook Messenger, not through the Uncle Monster page. Please go to my personal page. The Uncle Monster one doesn't work right. I never get messages until way later, sometimes days. So message me personally before 8 p.m., and you will be getting a coffee mug. We just need to get your address. So go for it, TC. Let's see what we got there.
Robert Connors?
Yep, I know the name.
Make sure you got it right.
Robert Connors.
Yes.
It is, in fact, Robert Connors. Matter of fact, you know what? I think this just went in today because I know I filled his out. He was one of the people that voted. So, Robert Connors, you have got until tomorrow, 8 p.m. to get in touch.
Congratulations.
Congrats. All right, and let's see what else we got going on here. Okay, so zombies. My favorite. What do you guys think?
I love them. I know I've pretty into the history of them for the most part. I've dressed as them. I'm part of the that's how I think Natalie and I actually officially met, was through the Zombie Club. So it's I'm a huge fan. I remember it's The Serpent and the Rainbow or something like that. It's a voodoo movie. That was truly the heavier introduction that I got into what a zombie was. But later on, when I you've seen them in fantasy, D&D, that kind of stuff. But that was one of the first times I really was like, wow, that's heavy. And then from then on, it was, of course, as you grow up, you read more and you never look back. But yeah.
I know. I grew up as watching Elvira, and you know how many bad horror or bad zombie movies that were on there and stuff.
First of all, big shout out, love of my life. I mean, happily married, but as we all know, Elvira,
all of us happily married too. But I would throw her by the roadside in a heartbeat.
I think my wife would leave me for Elvira. So let's keep it real, okay?
How about you, Natalie? Would you be interested in Elvira? Or wait, no, we're talking about zombies. What's your thoughts on zombies?
When we're gonna talk about this, I was thinking about the evolution of zombies and how they went from really slow and then they got faster and a little bit smarter. And then I actually just watched Little Monsters last night. As research, to get ready for the show. It's a new one that's out. It's based in Australia. And the U.S. government really screws things up, and there's a bunch of zombies, and there's little kids, and it's not a kids movie, but I think it's gonna go down with what's the one that just Zombieland, and it's gonna be Shaun of the Dead, and
nice.
Yeah, it's
funny, but yeah, nice.
Yep.
How about you, Tony? I know you don't watch horror movies, but what's your thoughts on zombies? Uh-oh.
We lost him.
We lost him.
Oh, wait. Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
You and I have had a bunch of talks about that. The thing that I think about most with the zombies is I don't understand how they stick around for so long. You and I have talked about they should be decaying and rotting and falling apart long before.
Yeah, and in The Walking Dead, seeing as how they're 10 seasons into it. And I think they're trying to pull off with Judith, and we'll talk about The Walking Dead as we get into this, but I'm thinking that she's probably 7 or 8 years old, so they've got to be 7, 8 years into the zombie apocalypse. And to Tony's point, why aren't they just falling apart, walk down the road?
But I do want to ask, there was a zombie club, TC?
Yeah.
What happens in a zombie club?
What happens in zombie club stays in zombie club.
Yes, it does.
You should join.
The first rule of zombie club is you don't ask about zombie club.
It's true.
It's a bunch of knuckleheads in Lodi where I live that get together and do a zombie walk around town and just celebrate the night and this whole zombie culture and everything. And that's, like I said, that's how Natalie and I met, was through that. She was doing makeup, and I'm a member. I've been with them since day one. I used to have the martial arts school. We were called the Wranglers. We would walk around and make sure they didn't get ran over because being a zombie is one thing, but walking in front of a 2-ton car is another. So but it's just more of a family friendly, fun kind of group of knuckleheads.
And they also put on events throughout the year too.
Yeah, different things. They're big with the fundraiser for the kids and stuff like that. It's not a bad group of people.
Well, I did a little bit of research just to get kind of the conversation started, and one of the interesting things about zombies is that they're believed to be the oldest monster in the human psyche, the human mythology, all that kind of stuff. And it's primarily because even as primitive creatures, before we were really intelligent, we already learned that dead corpses, dead bodies that are decaying were dangerous because they had disease and they had, chemicals coming out of them and stuff like that. And we learned to stay away from them. So that kind of developed into the idea that not only are they bad to be around, but imagine how much worse it'd be if they came back to life. So that's how, mythologies all get started and stuff. So, and virtually every culture around the world has got some kind of story about zombies or the undead or the dead coming back to life. So, now I know you're into martial arts and stuff. One of the ones that I found that was really interesting was the legends in China. I'm not sure if you're familiar with I'm going to probably mess it up, but Zhongxi spirits, I guess, or they're not spirits. They're basically reanimated corpses. That was really interesting, and they still do it to this day. What they do is they have a very strict belief in how the bodies have to be prepared and buried and interred. They have to be tied a certain way. They actually tie them with straps and ropes, and it has to be done just right. It's very ceremonial, and if one mistake is made, then they come back to life and they hunt down their own family in order to eat them, and that's their revenge.
That's what happens when you have a bad family and you want to get back at them. So you make up stories like that. If they don't take care of your dead corpse, you're going to come back and eat their face. So, yeah, I've yet to run into one. You know, all those years of Kung Fu, nobody ever came, after me or any of my friends or family. But, yeah, they definitely have some different beliefs over there in how they feed off of not just the flesh but of the spirit. That's they're more into that definitely than we are. And zombies have been around, like you say. I cannot name a culture or a religion or something of that nature, a philosophy per se, that doesn't bring up the dead and what to do, kind of how to interact with them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I can tell you one thing. It's a good thing that they don't have me over there doing it, because I never even learned to tie my shoes right. When you're supposed to go around the loop and through the hole. I got to make bunny ears and just do the whole crisscross thing. So if they had me over there tying up bodies and they're trying to say, "Oh no, make a loop, go around," I'd be like, "Shh, this lady's coming back to life, man." So
no. Don't let him tie you up.
No, you can let me tie you up. Oh, wait, that's for a later show.
That's the other channel.
Yeah. Now, another one that I thought was interesting, and this I never knew until I did this research, from Arabic folklore, they have a female demon that may have been a demon that was a sinner, oftentimes like a prostitute or something like that, something that fell from the grace of God, became a demon. And they act as kind of a siren out in the desert where they attract men, they lure them in, and then when the men get too close, they devour them. And they're called ghouls. Nice. I never knew that that's where the word ghoul came from, so it really kind of blew me away. I just thought it was ghosts and ghouls. I didn't realize that was a Arabic thing. So
I didn't know that. I thought it was. I thought the ghoul was something like a vampire had to do. Fed it blood or something. That was its keeper would be a ghoul or something. But no, and the sirens. That's that goes back to Odysseus and Ulysses, and I have a tattoo of them on my arm because they would sing on the rocks and call in the sailors and crash their ships.
Love on the Rocks.
Yeah. That's a Bee Gees song.
So another one that is pretty prevalent and popular is the Viking legends of the Draugr. And I'm probably mispronouncing that. But this one's really fierce because it not only is it an undead creature, but it's like this super duper soldier that only like a massive Thor type hero. Yeah, along the lines of a berserker with a insatiable hunger for human flesh. So yeah, that was one of those. They don't come at you by the thousands in order to get you. All they need is just one of them.
Well, and that's what the Viking belief was, that the concept of the berserker was when you were so mortally injured that you knew you were going to die, you fought like you had nothing to lose. Mm-hmm. So at one soldier was taking out 10, 12, 20 men, then it was, and then literally to die in front of, at the last moment, he dies himself. That's some scary stuff, man. So, hey, imagine one of them dudes probably bit somebody in the neck, and then next thing you know, there's a whole nother legend. And imagine he didn't die, so then he's the guy that bit somebody in the neck and didn't die. He's a zombie. So.
Now, Tony, I know you're a history buff and whatnot. Jump in here anytime if you got something to offer. You want to tell us a little bit about the actual word zombie and stuff? Uh-oh.
No, you're off, Tony.
We lost you again. Hello?
Okay.
Goose.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Well, I'll tell you what. I've got notes on it. We're not getting Tony. His audio is cut out for some reason. Still there?
Yep, I think so.
Hey, welcome back, Mr. Cotter.
Man.
We gotta keep an eye on that.
No, you go ahead, Ryan. You go.
All right. Well, I've got the notes here. So the voodoo religion actually stems from kind of like the West Africa over to Haiti kind of area. And the actual word zombie comes from their religion and whatnot. And it was believed that a Bokor or a Kaplata, which are the male or female versions of a black, not really black magic practitioners, they could do either, but they had the ability to resurrect.
The priests.
Yeah, exactly. They had the ability to bring bodies back from the dead, and use them as slaves to do their work and all that kind of stuff. So. There's a documentary that I watched years ago that actually talked about like real life cases. Where people had been drugged. And
talked about that's my first interaction was with that movie, and that movie was apparently based off of the real life a reporter that went down there and saw people doing and being zombified essentially through drugs, not an actual zombie afterlife style, but. I mean, and that was scary enough for me that I was like, no, I'm good. I always, buy my own drinks.
There you go. Now, Natalie, I'm going to ask a question. Have you ever seen the original Night of the Living Dead?
Yeah, quite a few times. They show it a lot. The zombie walk in downtown, they showed it, 4 years ago?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I remember that one. And then I've seen it quite a few times. And that's where it comes, I was saying, they were really slow back in the day.
Oh, yeah. It amazes me how many people have not seen that movie, especially younger people. So
it's unfortunate because so many things get remade over the years and stuff like that. But that's one of the ones that, it's truly an original platform that all of us can. That's the basis. I don't understand why somebody wouldn't. And even in the new age with the new, style zombies and stuff, to go back and, like you say, to see where the zombie comes from, essentially, in film. And it's an homage to, George. He's the king,
Well, he was the guy who basically took a low-budget movie and turned it into an absolute smash hit and changed the idea of the zombie forever. Because up until then, the zombie was looked at, or the, risen dead were just looked at, again, as very old-fashioned kind of monsters. When he came up with this, he made the idea more like an apocalyptic type thing, which brought them kind of like in the future and put it in the people's eyes of, what if that really did happen?
No, you're right. I think the only other thing we even have remotely close to a zombie is like Bela Lugosi or one of those guys playing like an animated dead person or something. But it's not even a zombie. It was just him going after one person that he wanted to kill because of what they did to him, like a revenge thing. You know what I mean? And so I believe that was truly the first time we saw, like you say, a group where it spreads and it becomes that pandemic moment of, holy crap, what would you do? What would you do in this moment? We all know if Jason was chasing us, we just would run and trip and die. You know what I mean? But like when it comes to the zombie thing, there was that realism and I think that's what made the movie so great is and things can go wrong. Like my wife, I love her dearly, and she's very honest about that. You can plan all you want, but in real life, doesn't go the way you plan. So she was in the Army. That's obvious. And that's I love that movie because it shows those moments where, you think you got it. You got the key. Everything's good. We're going to do this. Barbara, next thing you know, not so good. So.
Well, I've got some interesting fun facts for you, and these actually kind of surprised me and blew me away. First one, not that big a deal. It's actually, they don't call them zombies in the first ever zombie movie. They don't even use that word. In that movie, George Romero actually calls them ghouls, which is kind of interesting. Also, the movie doesn't definitively say what caused the apocalyptic thing, but there is a clip that suggests that it might have something to do with a NASA satellite that was leaking radiation. But it's not confirmed that's what it was. Now, this one really blew me away. Opening box office weekend for that movie. Any idea, anybody?
No way.
Anybody want to take a guess? Remember, this is 1968.
Yeah, no, probably not good.
Tony, what do you think?
$1,000.
Tony just hung up. I guess we lost it.
I'd say $1,000.
Okay. No, actually, you know what? It did 5,000.
Wow.
But that's crazy. You think it's something like that? You know, that was $5,000 for a weekend. It worldwide grossed 236,452, which was considered a complete success because its budget was 114,000.
Nice.
So yeah, that's kind of crazy.
More than you spend. That's business 101.
Yep, absolutely.
That's when the studio will call you back again.
Since then, there have been so many great zombie movies. Natalie, what's some of your favorites?
I really love Zombieland. World War Z keeps coming to mind because the fast zombies.
Yeah.
They're very, very fast, and that's actually kind of scarier than the slow zombies, the original zombies.
Was that? I think it was 28 Days Later.
Yes.
That kind of introduced the rage zombie or whatnot, the rage virus and stuff. That scared the crap out of me. I mean, literally, when I started thinking, I was like, man, that totally puts a total new spin on the idea of zombies.
What was the movie with Will Smith with the dog?
Oh, yeah.
I Am Legend.
I Am Legend. That got me because they were starting to think.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first ones where the zombies were playing the game back, you know, and I was like, wow, that's a tough one. So but I'm genuinely old school. I love the older ones myself, but 28 Days Later, that was a game changer. You know what I mean? And Shaun of the Dead, of course, we can. It was one of the first times you could laugh at it, but yet it was still a zombie movie. Yep. They were making fun of it in the fact that they were in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. So you know, I did like that. I always look back to that and kind of laugh. And yeah, Zombieland, of course. You know, those are they're funny movies.
Yeah.
Well, online Laura Goodlet, who I put many votes into that far jar, she agrees that the fast ones are scary. You know, they really are, because I'm a fan of the Watching Dead. I'm a fan of the Walking Dead. But that would be pretty creepy, though, the Watching Dead. Yeah, just corpses that just kind of like follow you around and stare at you.
We're living in that right now.
Yeah, that's it. Watching Dead.
I'm a fan of the show. I know a lot of people are very polarized on it. They either say it needed to end seasons ago, or they're like me and they're still hanging on. So I won't just get into all that kind of stuff. But I definitely feel that the zombies falling apart, like what Tony was saying, that's starting to kind of make sense. But the mass herds of them, that's scary.
Yeah.
But encountering 10 or 15, I wouldn't really be too worried. But rage zombies, one of those things, and I'm like, no. Yeah, I'm throwing my wife in front of the zombie and running.
There's definitely a difference there, because, like, if we go back to, the original, Night of the Living Dead, you can see he runs around, he's doing the karate, he's got a 2x4, he's beating them off, knocking them down, wrong wording. But then, you look later on, and it's like, you really, the 28 Days Later, I think the guy has, like, the full body armor. He was a SWAT officer or something with the shield, and, like, that's barely enough to keep these things off of you. And it wasn't like he was out there just chopping them apart. He was just barely able to use that to keep them from eating him alive, which is, that's a different, you'd probably have to be a samurai or something like that to even remotely last a couple of seconds, because you'd have to chop that thing apart pretty quick before it got to you. So.
Yeah. Now, Brandon Dolan brought up Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. Oh, yeah. I totally forgot about that movie. I remember seeing the commercials for it, and I think I remember saying, I got to watch that. Has anyone seen that?
I don't think I've seen the whole thing. I think I saw part of it, and it was because it was campy. It was, it was more funny than it was.
Oh, I can totally dig that.
I think that was one of the ones but I don't think we didn't finish it. I personally didn't. I got up and did something else.
Well, I'll tell you, another one that they did a remake of the Night of the Living Dead that I thought was actually pretty good. I don't remember what year it came out, but I just remember it's colorized, obviously, all that kind of stuff. What's the girl's name? Anyone remember? Anyone watching remember? Short hair, She, like she's wigged out in the beginning of it where she doesn't even talk hardly at all. But I thought that was pretty good. All right.
I know the character's name originally was Barbara because I love my brother teasing her. Barbara.
They're coming to get
yes.
you. I thought I might have that on the soundboard, but I don't.
That was one of the...
What about you, honey? What is your favorite zombie movie?
I would have to say I'm a Zombieland kind of person.
Okay.
I don't do scary. Or Shaun of the Dead I liked. That was funny. And then we just saw Zombieland 2. That was good. Not as good as first, but still good. So, no, I stick with the campy and the funny. I don't do scary.
I thought I saw someone make a comment of Warm Bodies.
Oh, wasn't that love story one?
Yeah, that was where the zombie finds love in his heart, brings him back to life. And
oh no, I missed that.
You should watch that. Yeah.
No, it is a corn fest. It's actually worth watching, but yeah, it is very much a corn fest. Oh, I'm gonna make you like it even more. John Malkovich is in it.
Well, I mean,
so that should tell you a lot right there. All right.
It's gonna have its own category, zombances.
Well, we're supposed to have pizza showing up here any minute, and it hasn't come yet. So how about Walking Dead then? Does anyone else here watch Walking Dead? I know Natalie does, but we can't talk about what's going on with it.
You can talk about last season all you want, but I can't know anything about this season.
Yeah. So no one.
I'm not as caught up, but I'm not as mad. I watched it. My wife and I watched it. I think she's current more than I am. So, but I loved it. One of the friends of ours through the Zombie Club is one of the stand-ins for the Rick Grimes guy and stuff. So, I've loved it. I mean, it comes from comics. It's got, as an actor, as a guy who wrote one or two things. I don't call myself a writer yet, but when you write things, it's really neat. And then you can see somebody else's. They kill off main characters just, and it's like you don't do that on TV. That's awesome. So I think that's always been one of the, my wife and I have always loved it for those reasons that it just, they don't play. There are some great characters. There's great development. I have seen through watching some of the specials about it that they are doing a better version of the zombies now, showing that they are starting to get older. There were ones in swamps and different places that had been out there that had basically started to decompose, and they were trying to show that the herd is feeding. That's why the herd is moving, and the reason why some of the zombies are still acting the way they are is because they're actively feeding. But the ones that aren't were starting to break down, and I. As a visual effects artist, I know you way like that. That was really cool. I saw some neat, because as a prop guy, me, I'm with you all the time. It's like that's fun when we get to play with our toys and like do that kind of stuff. I have a blast. That's where our two worlds get to come together, and I think that's one of the neatest things about making these things is when I watch the behind the scenes stuff where they show the actual zombies and what they were working on. Man, I love it. So I think they're trying. I'm not mad at them.
Well, that was one of the things that they had talked about, like behind the scenes a while back, was actually if you watch the first season of The Walking Dead and you look at the zombies and stuff, and over time they have purposely been degrading them. The other thing that they did too that I saw was a little Easter egg, because my wife got me one of the multi-season collection things, and I was watching the special edition things, was that the title sequences, I had to go back and rewatch it, but the opening title sequences where it says The Walking Dead in the beginning of the series, the block letters and all that are actually like in really good shape, and they decay them every episode all the way through. And I was like, I never even noticed that.
Nice.
And it is, the changes are subtle enough that it, I usually catch stuff like that, but they caught me off guard, so that was kind of cool.
So I'm such a nerd that in the last season that I got to watch, when they were, hopefully this isn't going to ruin it for anybody who's not caught up, the movie theater, when they were going to get the light bulbs.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They needed the light bulbs to watch the movie for the festival.
Mm-hmm.
I was like pausing the TV, trying to see what the posters were on at the movie theater to figure out what time it was, because I really want to know the timeline. I'm that kind of nerd that I will like pick apart everything and all the little details.
Were you able to recognize anything?
No. I'd have to look it up again. I do remember that John and I kind of were like, it was some like really B movie couldn't figure out, or it was even like a old theater that wouldn't show modern new
like a crest.
So like the older stuff.
Nice.
So there's really no way to tell. I was so disappointed because I'm like, that's one thing that really bugs me. I'm like, what's the timeline and how long has it been? And those are always the questions I have.
We were talking about that, I think, right before you showed up, where we were talking about how we think Judith is probably 7 or 8 years old or something like that. And she was born shortly after the start, so they're probably 8 years into it. That would be my closest guess. That's
8 to 10. I mean, somewhere fluctuating there. I mean, depending on, you know what I mean. You're right.
I feel like it's been at least 10 years.
How realistic do you think that is, as far as like the way they portray humans? You know?
Oh, I believe the human portrayal was on point. I've never worried about the zombies. I'm more scared of the rest of you people. All right. So, no, that's and it was awesome because I appreciated it as a guy who also maybe like Tony. I like history. If we go back to the Dark Ages, you'd better believe that things are going to happen like in the Dark Ages. When there's no law, no society, no civilism between man, we are going to do things that happened probably once already. And I think that was a very honest portrayal of you know, I played the governor not the governor. Why am I lose forget his name? The bad guy. He ends up in jail.
Oh, Negan.
Negan, thank you.
Oh yeah,
sorry. I've got the opportunity to play Negan at some Comic-Cons and stuff, and I mean it's that character is, and the governor too. There are people that are going to put themselves in power. There's other people that are going to put other people in power for the right and wrong positions, and just I think honestly, and then to go into the micronism of we're all just trying to survive. I mean, really, and honestly, we're all just trying to survive. How you do it is probably shows how your mom or grandma raised you. So that kind of is a reflection of that. And when we lose all that niceties and we lose all that stuff, it's going to get real nasty. And I think that's one of the best ways of showing it.
Yeah.
I agree. I've told a lot of people, like even my parents, I was telling them they really should watch The Walking Dead. And I said, and my parents were like, we're not into zombies. We're not into, gore and stuff. And to try to tell them it's truly not really a zombie show. It's just an apocalyptic show. Mm-hmm. They just happen to use zombies as the vehicle, and that you could have made it anything. You could have just made it a disease. And this is what happens to, society as it breaks down and stuff. So
it is. It's a true reflection of society.
Yeah. And it definitely is a kind of a slower-paced storyline arc. They do their seasons as 2 8-season or like they're half seasons, 8 episodes. And I always try to tell people that don't watch it thinking it's just going to be nonstop combat and fighting and blah, 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 because it takes them about 4 episodes to tell a story arc and then another 4 episodes to lead into that mid-season finale. And, the payoff is usually pretty decent. So.
Well, I mean, I'm not super fan like some of you guys are, but isn't there one season where it's all one day or something like that? Or is it like 8 episodes where it's just one day and like you see it from different people's perspectives of like how it's all going down?
I believe so. That sounds...
Yeah, there's some part of it where it's like you end up watching quite a few episodes, and what you realize is that was 24 hours or 48 hours of those people's lives, but from different looks and different perspectives. So yeah, it's I think they've done a good job. Like I said, I know my wife still watches, and I'm still a fan. I haven't been able to keep up with it as much as I'd like to, but every time I hear something about it, I'm interested.
So now let's talk about the reality of the zombie apocalypse. What if that happened? Now, there actually is a fungus that can affect I believe it affects a type of wasp. And it literally takes control of this wasp's brain and makes it do what it needs to do in order for it to propagate itself into more spores that then go out and zombify other wasps. So these are insects, but at the same time, it's just proving that there's some kind of mechanism that's possible.
It's a symbionite. There's some things that I mean, I love the post-apocalyptic game Fallout. And like we were talking about, and I even in that game, they have zombies and ghouls and things that have the radiation has affected them, and they run after you and try to kill you, and they have no mind and and that's all they do is claw at you and bite at you, and it's like no matter where you go, there's something. Of that effect coming for us, I think, and that's really what it like. I don't know. I have a survival kit at home. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they got me. I got a bag that one for me, one for the wife, and one for the dog. So, but I think it's pretty realistic.
Anytime we're waiting,
you have a truck, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Two trucks.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think you do that for no reason.
I've got the wife's Jeep right there, which I could have up and running in about 3 hours. Hey, now you shut up. Seriously, 3 hours max. And right inside
I just want to break in real quick. That Jeep has been sitting right where it's sitting for the last year. So don't tell me 3 hours. Yeah, 3 hours to get it towed to where it needs to go, maybe.
Anyway. We're also seeking. We have an opening coming soon for someone who can run a computer.
She's looking for a mechanic too. So
I've got 4 foot lockers that all strap together and have casters on the bottom that are in my garage, and it has all of my tents, all my sleeping bags, all of my mess kit stuff, and there's actually 3 books about surviving in the wilderness and all that kind of stuff. So,
nice.
I'm ready to bug out.
Yeah,
that's just my camping stuff.
Yeah, I didn't marry a girl who was in the Army for nothing. I mean, come on. The uniform looked cute on her, but, I was like, all right, yeah, no.
Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we have a spotlight artist that we're going to run. This is really some really cool stuff. So it's definitely something new and different, something you haven't seen on this show. And when we get back, we are going to talk about the outcome from Tournament of Terror, and we've got a couple other things that we're going to talk about too. So let's go ahead and run our artist of the week. Hey there, one of our missions here with Monster Vision is to try to help as many other independent artists get all the exposure they can possibly get to get further down the path with them. This week on our Artist Spotlight, we have a very special person coming to you. You're probably used to seeing a lot of mask artists, but we are opening this up to a whole bunch of stuff, and we've got something very, very interesting here. So I'm going to introduce Ms. Debbie Como of Sacramento, California. You're basically a neighbor of mine, and you are the owner of Children of Boggy Hollow. Hello, Debbie. How you doing today?
Hi, how are you?
I am doing great. So, welcome to the show. And, you know what? Start off a little bit. Tell us just a little bit about yourself.
I've been doing dolls for about 12 years. Started, way back. My daughter wanted a doll, so I started there. I've been an artist in many medias for as far as I can remember, but painting dolls seems to be the favorite.
Cool. So how exactly did you first get started into painting dolls? Like, what was the idea that came across your mind, or tell us how that began?
Well, my daughter saw some dolls that started way back about 12 years ago. They were advertised. They were kind of expensive. I couldn't afford it. I said, I'll make you one. That's where it started.
Oh, okay. Now, so you've always been artistic, but when it came to this, was this something that was kind of a skill you'd already learned, or did you kind of have to learn this kind of new?
Oh, it's totally trial and error.
Okay.
Totally self-taught.
Wow.
I'm one of the few artists that make the dolls and work with acrylic paints.
Oh.
Many artists use the heat set paints.
Okay.
And you won't find many acrylic artists on the reborn dolls.
Now,
I'm one of the few.
Now, why is that? What's the difference between the two?
The way the paint behaves.
Mm-hmm.
The heat set paint, they bake it into the vinyl.
Okay.
I learned through my own trial and error how to stain the vinyl with the acrylic paint and still make it appear airbrushed, blotchy, veiny. So it took a little trial, but I got through it.
Wow. Okay. And what type of tools do you use? Airbrush on these at all? Are these all hand painted? Describe that process.
Oh no, they're completely hand painted.
Oh.
Everything, and I use for my shadowing. I use everything from makeup to pastels, just to create the shadow effects around the eyes, and I hand paint the eyes as well.
Interesting. Okay. So now, how long have you been doing dolls now?
Dolls, about 12 years.
Wow. Okay.
But I've been an artist all my life.
Yeah.
So
now, in that 12 years, if you were to guesstimate, approximately how many dolls would you say you've made?
Oh God, at least 300-400.
Wow. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I know when we talked before, you mentioned that these actually ship out all over the world, right?
All over the world. I've got an order going to New Zealand. I've done Denmark, Netherlands, England, Scotland.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have a wide fan base.
Now, is this like your full-time thing, or is this a side hustle? Where are you at with this?
Oh no, this is my full-time thing. I'm a retired dog groomer, so got to keep on going. So nice. I picked up the brush again and, just made this the full-time thing. I don't only do dolls.
Uh-huh.
I do many other things too. I do canvas paintings, and I also do, I don't know if you can see back there, like I do Audrey, the plants, and I do small things like these zombie toothbrushes.
Oh, nice.
I do little things, Christmas ornaments, but the dolls, that's the staple.
Cool. So tell us about your daily routine. How much time do you spend every day in the studio working on this?
I open my eyes, I take a sip of coffee, and I can keep going until 11, 12 o'clock at night. It's what I call artist brain.
Yeah.
You're either at it for an hour and walk away from it, or you're at it 12 hours and you don't even realize 12 hours have gone.
That is true. So, I do the same thing when I'm in the studio too. I forget all about time. Yep. Mm-hmm. So now let me ask you, with this venture, are you kind of where you want to be, or is there somewhere else you'd like to see yourself, maybe say 5 years from now?
I'd like to see the dolls more mainstream. I don't know if I want to see them copied and mass-produced, but I would definitely like to have them in movies. That's my goal.
Okay.
I'd like to have, a movie say, hey, we need to use we need some horror babies. What do you got for us?
There you go. Well, that being said,
have them in movies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That being said about it being in movies, we've got really grainy footage here, but we're going to go ahead and run a montage so you all at home watching this can see how amazing these things are. So let's go ahead and run that montage. All right, so there you go. That is some really creepy babies and some amazing stuff that's in there. We're going to bring a graphic up right here that has Debbie's info of how you can contact her. If you saw anything in that you liked, I don't know if that stuff is available now, but definitely want to go to the links here and check out what she does currently have. So, Debbie, I love them. I think they are absolutely awesome. And I'll be honest with you, I could see these being sold on store shelves in, the little boxes with the plastic and on display and like collector's items. I think that you should. Yeah. I think you should probably seek funding to try to turn this into a mass-produced thing. These are amazing. They're beautiful. So
thank you. I would like that.
Now, with that being said, hopefully we're inspiring a lot of other artists out there. Someone who decides they want to give this a try, what would be one piece of advice you'd give someone that's just trying it out?
Never give up. Never let anybody sway you. Do not be afraid to ask questions. You will always find somebody who will help you, because that's what it's all about. You have to support one another in the artist field. Be willing to learn, be willing to teach, but never stop.
Absolutely. That is the best advice, because if you want it bad enough, you'll keep on going and nothing will stop you.
Right.
Well, hey, we're going to wrap this up, but is there anyone out there that might be watching or anybody that you want to give a shout out to or anything? Go ahead.
Well, first off, number one, I thank my husband. He has to live in the house with these things. They scare him. He just walks past them. I want to thank Adam Copeland. I want to thank I have a wide fan base. I love you all. Without you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. So I want to shout out to my best friend, Sarah Ann. She was always in back of me, helping me. Names, I'm not good, so I'll forget a bunch of names, but y'all know who you are. My mom, she doesn't understand it, but my sisters, they don't understand it, but they push me.
Yep.
Just thank you to the fans. Thank you for everybody who's believed in me. And thank you for everybody who's allowed me to be at their shows. And thank you to you for letting me be on yours.
Well, actually, I want to thank you for bringing you to my attention. You found me because of the local Sacramento Good Day Sacramento. And I think it's really great because I've been able to reach out to another artist. And again, this whole program is about artists supporting artists. So thank you for taking the time to share what you do with our viewers. Maybe we should do some of your masks on the dolls, or maybe one of my dolls on your masks. Hey, there you go. So, yeah, we can always do something. Well, there you have it, folks. That is Debbie Como. Again, we're going to bring up the links right here, so you make sure you take this information. It's also going to be in the description of tonight's episode, so look her up. Give her some love. Share some of her stuff. We're all about helping each other out. So, and also, if you are an artist and you'd like to be featured this way too, reach out to me and let me know, because we're always looking for artists, and it doesn't have to just be mask makers. As you can see, anything that's kind of creepy, even magicians that do kind of edgy tricks, performance artists, whatever. So, that being said, let's get back to the regular show. So there you have it, Debbie Como and her Boggy Hollow, the Children of Boggy Hollow.
Freaky baby dolls, man. Who, what, how, no. Come on.
I love them. The one I liked the most was the one that was in there that had the one black eye, the one white eye, and had like the Frankenstein stitches. And I was like, when I saw that, I was like, man, that's...
They were impressive. That's very good artistry, and if you're into that, more power to you. But don't come to my house. All right, you're not letting you in. No.
Yeah, definitely worth giving a look too. So, all right. So we've been doing Tournament of Terror, and all of the votes came in for the first round of eliminations. And some of these, yeah, exactly, finish him. Some of these were predictable. Some of them surprised me in multiple different ways. First off, we put up The Shining against American Werewolf in London. In the end, the score came to 19-22, which means American Werewolf in London will be moving on to the next round. Yeah, that one was.
And those are heavy hitters right there. Yeah. That's like two champions from different leagues coming together to play or something. I mean, I huge respect, but yeah. I voted for American Werewolf. I'm not gonna lie.
Now on the modern side, this one. Didn't surprise me so much, but Trick or Treat versus the Blair Witch Project. Wow. Trick or Treat scored 25 votes.
Wow.
Blair Witch Project scored 3.
Whoa!
I'm actually surprised by that. I was expecting Blair Witch to pull some pretty good stuff, but apparently there's just a lot more Trick or Treat fans out there.
Yeah.
Man.
Now, here's one that I'm going to say I totally agree with. I'm glad. I've never been a big fan of here we go. Exorcist versus Friday the 13th. Exorcist got 22. Friday the 13th got 15. So the Exorcist is moving on.
Yeah, I voted for The Exorcist as well. And again, those are two phenomenal movies, both, top notch. Come on, Friday the 13th is a Kevin Bacon movie. Let's keep it real.
All right, then back to the modern side here. Final Destination versus 13 Ghosts.
Oh, gosh.
Final Destination was blown out.
Oh, wow.
13 Ghosts got 29 total votes. Final Destination got 2.
Wow.
I did not expect that, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought, okay, I like Final Destination movies, and I realized I like the movies. It's like Scream, okay? Mm-hmm. You can be a fan of Scream, but if you're going to like Scream, you got to like all of Scream, and maybe that's why Final Destination, it wasn't the whole series against something. So.
Shout out to Jerry O'Connell. No. All right. And thank you, by the way, because then I go on a road trip after talking to you guys, and what happens? We come driving out, and there's a log truck or something in front of my wife. Just turns and looks at me with that look, and she's like, see, like with Natalie, and I'm like,
that's my entire life.
Thank you. So no, just never been a problem until that next day after we aired the show. Like,
when did that movie come out? Like seriously, I've lived that way for most of my life.
Everything was fine.
All right, in the race of Poltergeist versus The Howling, Poltergeist scored 22 votes. The Howling scored 3.
The Howling was good for what it was, but Poltergeist, come on.
No.
Yeah.
That's no.
Back to the modern side of it, we had the 2 somewhat comedies of Shaun of the Dead versus Cabin in the Woods. Shaun of the Dead got 17 votes, whereas Cabin in the Woods scored 10. So Shaun of the Dead moving forward on that one.
Nice.
I love Shaun of the Dead, and I was looking at all this, and I was kind of playing out, and we're going to open the phone lines here in a minute when we talk about going forward with this to get some of your opinions. But I was thinking to myself, Shaun of the Dead is a favorite. And the one thing that's interesting about Shaun of the Dead is I can literally put it on over and over and over and over. And it's kind of like the Rocky Horror Picture Show where you want to just say the lines with them because there's so many great lines that if you really are just comparing like movies that you enjoy verses, Shaun of the Dead would go a long way with me. So, all right, now here is one that Nightmare on Elm Street versus the original It. Nightmare on Elm Street scored 28 votes, and It came in with a measly 4.
Wow.
Freddy rules.
Now, someone did make a comment in the voting that they didn't think It should technically be in there because it wasn't really a movie. It was a made-for-TV kind of multi-night special. And, I kind of agreed. But at the same time, Tim Curry's performance in that so amazing. I mean, I'm a fan of his.
First of all, that's called loser talk. Okay, I was scared of that movie, whatever you want to call it, miniseries, television, whatever. Tim did such a good job. I mean, I'm not even like a big clown guy, anyways, but like, no, I'm good.
Then the last matchup that we had for the modern side was the remake of It going up against Saw. I thought that was actually a pretty good battle.
Yeah.
One of the things I like about Saw was it was such an interesting premise. It was something completely different, so it was interesting. But Saw got a total of 12 votes, and It got a total of 17.
I voted for Saw, I'll be honest. When I first saw that intellectually got to me. To wake up somewhere and to have to choose, your foot or something like that in order for your life. Yeah. It was very, those are heavy life choices. Yeah. So I definitely, I took it that route because it mentally scared me more than, I mean, again, if you come at me as a clown, I know Kung Fu, so I'm going to give you some of that. But if I wake up with some weird thing on my head,
I'm going to bring up a graphic here that's going to show where we're at right now. Awesome. So we got a neat little graphic. So going into the next round, our matchups are going to be American Werewolf in London versus The Exorcist.
Ooh.
Poltergeist versus Nightmare on Elm Street.
Ouch.
Trick or Treat versus 13 Ghosts. And Shaun of the Dead versus It. So that is so we're gonna go ahead and open phone lines now. If anyone wants to call. You want to load the Plinko board with actually shuffle those tiles up.
I am a huge. I got asked the other day, what's your favorite movie of all time? And I said, that's tough because, you have different genres and different things you break down into. Obviously, everybody knows I'm a martial arts guy, so, I Enter the Dragon, Fist of Fury, either one of those. But Nightmare on Elm Street and Terminator were the ones that kept coming back up. And I love the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, I mean, that's John Saxon's in it. You got Johnny Depp's in it. They're great actors in that movie. And then of course Freddy was he had charisma. He scared the crap out of you. Cool sweater. Let's not lie. You know what I mean? It was just. I mean,
and you know what? He was also popular at a time when one-gloved children predators were kind of popular and acceptable.
I'm just saying. I don't know how many of us tried to make the glove, but.
Yeah. Hey, we got a caller on the line. Hello, caller. What is your name and where are you calling from?
Scott from Ukiah, California.
Hey, Scott. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How about you guys?
Good. Hey, I got a question for you. So in the next round, we have got American Werewolf in London versus The Exorcist. What do you think is going to come out from that?
I would have to say The Exorcist.
You think so?
I believe so.
That hurt, man. Cool. That hurt a little bit, but I can understand.
So you're up in Ukiah, right?
Yes, I am.
All right. What can we do for you?
Well, I was just calling because you guys mentioned like the Blair Witch in one of the categories.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yep.
I wasn't a big fan of that movie because to me it's pretty much a documentary.
Yeah.
And documentary, there's a lot of shaking going on, so you don't really get the full horror effect from what all the documentary movies I've seen.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was something new. Up to that time, the found film footage genre hadn't really become mainstream, and I think a lot of people went and watched it. Maybe not even completely really getting it and whatnot, but I know the first time I watched it, I didn't like it at all. I totally was like, that was a waste of my time and whatnot. But as often happens, it ended up coming up on TV or whatnot, and I'm flipping through channels, and I just stopped at it. And I've seen it now 5 or 6 times, and the more I watch it, the more I realize the performance of the actors and whatnot.
Yes.
It's definitely not your typical horror movie, but it's really strong, believable performances and definitely very interesting.
Yeah, I'm with you. The first time I saw it with a group of friends. And, of course, a couple of them were just scared, horribly. And, a couple of the rest of us were like, come on, are you serious? Like, real? And then I did. I went back and individually watched it at the house. And I got it. It was one of those where it was an interesting genre to the lost tape or whatever, and there again, back to what you and I do with the props and special effects and stuff, there was no gore, there was no, I mean, the scary part about good scary movies is you don't see the bad guy, you don't see the element there, and it gets you psychologically, and for that part I do give it credit, but I don't think it can stand toe to toe with gore, with slashers, with some of those. I don't feel like it. And now that it's moved on and gotten put to bed, I agree that it definitely,
definitely.
I actually just watched that on Halloween with my daughter, and I convinced her that it was real, just like when it came out for us, and we all thought it was real. And she was really upset, and then the next day we talked about it, and I was like, no, it wasn't real. And she was so mad at me, but I was like, but you understand now, and you appreciate how it was when it came out. I mean, like, that's a brilliant masterpiece for what they did to promote that thing.
And then if you look at it as a filmmaker,
right?
I mean, how much money did they spend on that film?
Exactly.
How much, that is amazing.
Yes. That was, I mean, it's top of the line in that aspect.
It is.
As far as, like, scary.
Well, now
it was interesting to see again.
Now, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
we're going off on a tangent.
One of the things that I was going to bring up is that when I watch these documentaries like The Blair Witch, I want to see a horror movie that gets me on my edge of my seat.
Mm-hmm.
But watching The Blair Witch, whenever I see something that starts getting tense up, I don't see what's going on. I see the other people shaking the cameras and they're screaming and running, and I don't see what's going on. So I was like, okay, what did I miss? I didn't see no zombie coming out or a witch or anything. I just see them screaming, running.
No, it was definitely a different take on a show for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, thank you for calling in. And for calling in, guess what? You get to play Plinko And we do have a mask on the board. We're going to go ahead and switch you over to the Plinko camera. And what you need to do is give us a number between 1 and 7 where you'd like your puck dropped down.
We're going to go with number 4.
Number 4.
Right in the middle.
Right down the middle. Boom, boom, boom.
Woo! Oh, what the Plinko happened?
There we go. What do we got there? What is it? Look at that, man. You just scored yourself 10 additional entries in the fart jar.
Times 10.
We will get this written down. And what's your last name?
Andrews.
All right. I'll hand this over to Sam and let her start doing that so we can get you ready. But hey, thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you, and I'm glad you guys are doing this. I'm so interested in this.
Thanks, dude. Well, thank you.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you, and see you guys next show.
Yep.
Southpaw Lily. I just lost it. She says I still love the snot bubble.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, so let's all discuss on our parts. What do we think is going to happen in this next round 2? American Werewolf in London versus Exorcist.
I mean, I'm the werewolf guy, you know, so I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go home and vote on that myself, but that's a tough one because, again, when we talked about The Exorcist, we saw the director's cut, my wife and I, and she slept with the bathroom light on.
Yeah.
And it was scary. It was. I mean, I'm going to be frank. It was a good movie. Those are two different setups. One of them is definitely you're going to see the blood and guts. You're going to be a part of that, and the other one, they really get you when you go home and turn the lights off. You know, I think both of them are great movies, but just in my heart, I'm gonna vote for Werewolf because that's me.
Yeah.
The Exorcist.
Exorcist.
Yep.
You know what? I think The Exorcist is gonna win, but I would vote American Werewolf in London.
See, I mean, in my heart, it's the Werewolf because I love the Werewolf movie, but like the best line comes from The Exorcist. I don't use it here, but it's something about your mom.
Your mom washes socks in hell?
In Hades or somewhere like that.
Yeah, she's doing laundry.
That's the best line in any movie, much less horror. But
so in the original round of betting, American Werewolf in London scored 22 votes, and Exorcist scored 22 votes.
Yeah.
So now, granted, they were not opposed to each other, so it'll be interesting to see. All right, now on the modern ones, Trick or Treat versus 13 Ghosts. I can't say because I've not seen Trick or Treat.
Yeah, Trick or Treat's not my thing either. But the 13 Ghosts, I think it's gonna hold strong here. After seeing what it did in the first round, I definitely feel like it's gonna.
That's really hard because I know there's a big following for Trick or Treat, but I absolutely, as a makeup artist, and I love 13 Ghosts.
Yeah.
Love it. I could watch that every night.
Yep. 13 Ghosts is one of my favorites. It's campy enough to be fun, yet scary enough to be scary. So, and that's what I always like, So.
I mean, the visuals on that, I just. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't feel like there's another movie.
And I know it's technically a remake, and I've never seen the original, so I don't know. But in the original, do they do the whole glasses, and you have to see to be able to see them?
Isn't the original black and white?
Yeah, it's really, really, really old.
I don't think it's even the same kind of story.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. All right, so back to classics. How about Poltergeist versus A Nightmare on Elm Street?
Poltergeist.
I think TC is about to go the other direction on that one.
I'm Freddy all day, every day, twice on Sunday. That was my guy. Me and my cousin got to go to the first one and watch it together. Me and Jake the Snake, and I'll never fray. I have the glove at home. I can still do the walk with a little bit of swagger. I got the impersonation down. And Poltergeist, great movie. I will throw tennis balls at a TV set anytime. Don't get me wrong, but Freddy all the way, man.
Poltergeist came out when I was in junior high school. And that's the age when we were just discovering the scary movies and whatnot, So I've got real fond memories from that because we snuck into a movie theater to go watch it, and so I've got a sentimental connection to Poltergeist. But I agree, of all of the slasher flicks that are out there, Freddy has got the charisma, you know. I mean, he's always got something witty to say right before he disembowels someone. So I think Nightmare on Elm Street's going to win that one. I do.
Now, I do want to say that when you just said that right now, I envisioned you in a pair of Levi's with a white T-shirt, with a pack of Marlboros rolled up in a sleeve somewhere.
And don't forget the pant legs folded over and rolled up, you know.
Don't get me wrong. High waters all the way. And with your hair, done back with some type of grease. So,
of course.
Yeah, that's what I saw. You punk sneaking in the movie theater.
All right. How about Shaun of the Dead versus the remake of It? Chapter 1.
Probably Shaun of the Dead.
I don't have a favorite of the two. Both of them are good movies. I think the new It, though, is probably going to end up pulling it off. I think there's a lot of people that are really into It. Mm-hmm. And, again, I think Shaun of the Dead's going to get the campy vote, but I think the hardcore are going to go the other way. And I think It will end up taking that one.
All right. Well, here's what I think is going to happen. Oh, I'm sorry. What did you think?
I said Shaun of the Dead.
Okay. Shaun of the Dead. I'm going to agree. And again, it's because I already said earlier that Shaun of the Dead is just one of those endearing favorites that, I've seen it. Okay. It was all right. I'm not a huge Stephen King fan, but, it was okay. But Shaun of the Dead, I love. So for me, it's no brainer. Shaun of the Dead. So here's what I'm predicting is going to happen in this round. I'm predicting that The Exorcist is going to beat American Werewolf in London, which is going to put it up against Nightmare on Elm Street. Okay? I think that's going to be a very polarizing vote, and I think what it's going to do is it's going to be people who are maybe around my age and a little older. They're going to go for The Exorcist, most of them. I think people who are around my age and a little bit younger are going to go for Nightmare on Elm Street. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm 47, which I'm going to say is kind of the dividing line. We'll see how it plays out. That's just what I think it's going to be. I think younger people are going to say Freddy's the guy.
I'm 44 as of last week, and I'm voting for Freddy. So if you're old geezer in it, that's fine, whatever.
All right, so now for the modern side, I really can't say between Trick or Treat or 13 Ghosts, but I agree. I know Trick or Treat has a killer following, so I think it might end up being Trick or Treat. And I think it'll end up being Shaun of the Dead against It. I just really think a lot of people are going to feel the same way. We're not trying to say which movie is the goriest, which one's the scariest. It's just which one do you like the most. Mm-hmm. I think people are going to go with Shaun of the Dead, and I think it's going to end up being Trick or Treat versus Shaun of the Dead. And again, since I've not seen Trick or Treat, I don't know how that's going to play out. So those are just my predictions going forward. Those votes will be popping up over the next 2 weeks until our next show comes up. Also, we're going to talk real quick because I know we're over time, but we'll go a few more minutes just for you guys. We've got the Clue game coming out, which we've been kind of messaging and discussing, going back and forth on all of that. For you viewers that are tuning into this, you're going to really love this because we've got a bunch of surprises that are coming up for this. Let's just say that there's a whole cast of characters that are coming on board with this, and it really is going to be a lot of fun. So you're going to want to make sure you tune in. We're going to release a print-at-home play-along paper that you can print at home, and as clues are revealed as to who is not in the suspect card, you can check them off. Now, the other thing that you're going to make sure you do is that all of the suspects are real people, including the cast here, but we got some other special guests that are playing too. You're going to want to make sure you follow them on social media because we're all going to be dropping free clues periodically on certain scheduled days, and you want to make sure that if you want to get ahead in the race that you're kind of paying attention to it and stuff. So that is coming up. Natalie, you got anything? Of course, you're 1,000 Word Studios. Make sure you're following Natalie. She's part of the game. Do you have anything going on that you want to announce or anything like that?
No, it's kind of quiet. I've got some parties coming up.
Cool.
Kid stuff. Not
Party
cool.
on, man.
Yeah.
All right.
I just did a birthday party earlier today. It was a pajama party, but I was able to change before I got here.
Nice.
So.
And TC.
I didn't get invited to the pajama party, apparently.
20 little girls.
And TC has got
Thank God.
Laughs Unlimited.
Yes, Thursday here in Old Sac, I got Laughs Unlimited. Then on Friday, you can catch me. We're doing the Paradise show. It's a comedy recovery show for the folks at Paradise. It's a charity event for those poor people that lost their homes, and the folks that are living up that way. We're going to try to tell some jokes. One of the comedians herself, she actually lost her house, and so it's kind of part of the whole getting back to normal. And when you can laugh, that's kind of the beginning of that. So I'm proud to be a part of that, honestly.
Well, there you go. Yeah, so if you're a Sacramento local or whatnot, make sure you catch that.
You can keep up with me at the Captain TC on the Instagram.
I've been waiting. We've been waiting for him to come local, and it just so turns out the date he does, I have to be out of town for 3 days for work. So unfortunately, we'll have to catch you the next time. So. Again, viewers, we thank you for watching us. We thank you for your comments, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to have to read through this when it's all done. Thank you all on there. We see Southpaw Lily, Robert Nasta, of course, Karen Knight Lane, Doreen is there, Laura Goodlit, Nick Meyer, of course. It looks like it's kind of the usual suspects. Thank you all for supporting us. Hope you enjoy what we're doing here. We will be back next week, and next week we're going to be talking about ghosts. I'm sorry, not next week. Next episode, yes, 2 weeks out. Next episode, we're going to be talking about ghosts. So that'll be a lot of fun. That will be on October 54th. For those of you who are normal people, we'll call that November 23rd. So, again, be sure to visit UncleMonstersPlace.com, the little Amazon store that's on there. If you need some art supplies or whatnot, it is all Amazon pricing. Same exact price you pay on Amazon. It's just you be supporting us with a little bit of a kickback there. We also have a merch shop on TeePublic. All of this stuff is in the links below in the description of this. And also, very, very soon, we're going to actually have a Patreon account that'll be launching, and we've got some really cool stuff that's going to be coming with the Patreon as well. So more to discuss on that later. So until then, thank you all for joining us, and let's keep this Halloween thing going year round. Until the next episode, stay scared, my friends. Stay scared.
You're still here? The show's over. Go create something. Go on.